Hello everybody, my name is Sarah and welcome back to Educating Adventures. This morning when I woke up, I looked out the window and I got really excited because it was cloudy and it was raining, and I wondered what was happening in the environment in different parts of the country or even in different parts of the world. Was it raining there? Was it hot or cold? Was it cloudy? All of these questions led me to think about the weather, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, so let's get into it. Okay, I think before we get too far into it, we should probably talk about what weather is. Weather describes the events that are happening in the atmosphere over a short period of time. So this could be in just a couple minutes or over a couple hours, or it could be over a day or two. And the weather is really heavily dependent on where you are in the world. So the weather by me is probably going to be a little bit different than the weather by you. Some weather systems are really big and could cover an entire state, but other weather systems are small, and you could be not that far apart from somebody who's experiencing completely different weather than you are. Weather can also move. I might have a storm by me today in Arizona that could travel hundreds of miles and end up all the way in Mexico. The same storm. And weather can also change really, really quickly. The weather today by me might be completely different than the weather by me tomorrow. It might actually be different this morning than it is this evening. So it can change really, really fast. Weather is really heavily dependent on where you are, the season, even the time of day, and many other factors. Weather can change like that. When we are describing the weather, there are 6 things that we have to consider. The first thing to consider is the temperature, which basically tells us how hot or cold it is outside. Temperature can change a lot based on the season or even the time of day, and we usually use a thermometer to tell us what the temperature is. Next up we have wind, and wind is just describing the movement of the air. It happens everywhere in the atmosphere. It happens way up high in the atmosphere. It also happens along the Earth's surface. I bet some of you guys can remember a day that was especially windy. Wind can also move weather, which is very fascinating. Third up, we have precipitation, and precipitation describes any water that is falling from the atmosphere to the Earth's surface. It could be rain, it could be snow, it could be sleet, it could be hail. These all describe precipitation. Fourth, we have humidity, and humidity is describing the amount of water vapor that is in the air around us. So water vapor can enter the air through evaporation, like if we have a puddle that dries up, that water turns into water vapor. It also happens through a process called transpiration, which is when water vapor escapes through tiny little holes in the leaves and stems of plants. So lots of different ways that humidity enters the environment. Fifth up, we have cloudiness, which, as the name suggests, is describing the amount of clouds and the type of clouds that we have in the atmosphere. So at any given time, you might have a clear blue sky, or you might have an overcasty sky, or clouds that are big and white and fluffy. This is all describing cloudiness. Last up, we have atmospheric pressure, which we also call air pressure, and this is just describing the weight or the force of the air molecules that are all around us in the atmosphere. Now, a lot of these factors that we use to describe weather can really influence one another. If we're thinking of atmospheric pressure, this controls wind direction because wind is usually moving from high pressure to low pressure. The atmospheric pressure is also going to be controlling cloudiness. On a day with high air pressure, you're probably going to have clear blue skies, but on a day with low atmospheric pressure, you might have a lot of cloudiness in the sky. Speaking of cloudiness, cloudiness also impacts other part of the weather. On a really cloudy day, less sunlight can reach the Earth's surface, and that's actually going to cool temperatures. And the more clouds that are in the atmosphere, the more likely it is we're going to get precipitation. We're going to get some type of water or snow falling to the Earth's surface. If we look at temperature, the higher the temperature, the rate of evaporation is going to increase, which is going to increase the humidity in any given environment. Precipitation could also increase humidity. The more water you have falling from the sky, the more water vapor is going to end up in the atmosphere around you. And so on and so on and so on. So we can see how these different weather factors are able to influence each other. When we think about weather events, we could think of a warm, sunny summer day. We could think of a cool, crisp fall evening. But weather events can also be extreme. We could think of things like hurricanes, which are huge tropical storms that create this swirling cyclone of wind. Those can be really, really destructive. We can also think of tornadoes, which are another big weather event where we've got those really tight spirals of wind. Those are also really destructive. And blizzards are also an extreme weather event. When we get a ton of snow and really high winds, it makes it really hard for us and other animals to survive during those extreme weather events. But even the extreme weather events are short. All weather events are short because we said weather happens over a short period of time. If we're talking about a long period of time, that's when we're going to be talking about climate. Climate are weather patterns that happen over years and years and years, over really long periods of time. So remember today I said by me it was raining, and I was really excited about that because I live in the desert, and in the desert our climate is pretty dry. We usually don't get a lot of rain, but sometimes we do get rainy weather events, which for me are very exciting. Like we said before, the weather and the climate can really depend on where you are in the world. And unfortunately, because of human activity, our global climate has started to change, which has influenced weather events in different parts of the world. If you want to learn a little bit more about this, be sure to check out our lesson on the greenhouse effect to see just how the climate changing is affecting different parts of the planet. But just know that weather and the climate can change, and there are things that we can do every day to prevent that. All right, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today to learn all about the weather. If you want quizzes and activities and projects all about weather and climate, be sure to check out our Educating Adventures website. The link is below, and we'll see you guys next time.